Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack, and it's still the Impact Attack no matter what they call the company name, because the show is TNA Impact. Impact, and we're here to make an impact. Who are we? We're the VBC. I'm Jamie Williams, also known as the Vet, which is a V. Here I'm tagging in Brandon right through the screen, tagging in Brandon. Brandon is the B. What's going on, Brandon?
Not much, man. We are finally at the relaunch of TNA. We're finally getting an impact with original content for the first time since Bound for Glory. And I don't think they did a pretty bad job. I thought it was a decent show. So, yeah, actually looking forward to this one.
All right. There's your spoiler for later. He thinks they did a decent job. So, the C in the VBC is the chat. There's a few people here right now. Let's go ahead and acknowledge them.
I see hanging out with us tonight. We got Lab Rat, Media M5, Lisbeth, Javi Uchida. How you guys doing tonight? Thank you for joining us. Whoop, whoop.
That's the four pillars right there. If there's ever a four pillars, that's a good one to have. All right. So, that's right. We're here. It's TNA. It's no longer, just Impact presents Impact. It's now TNA presents Impact Wrestling. So, we're back to where we started. Kind of. I mean, we're not paying $10 a week, but we are paying $10 a month if you've got the new app. So you've had this app for a little bit. You've been messing around with it lately?
I'm honestly not a fan of how they have it set up. Like, you actually have to be a paid subscriber to see their pre-show content, and then you have to buy the pay-per-view on top of it. I'm sorry, that's a model for failure.
Or is it? I don't know. Yeah, well, this is Endeavor, so I mean, they want their money, they want their cut. So,
or who knows if it could be a sabotage to kind of help, further put them in a more of a decline, so that way they can buy them up.
It could be. Not that they're worth that much as it is, I wouldn't say.
No, but you know how it is. They want to get it at the cheapest price possible.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I haven't heard much from the community. I don't really follow it. I don't know what they think about it. I haven't seen the app myself. Not going to see it. Just being honest. Don't need it. Don't care. But that is the thing. It's kind of hard to kill. No, hard to grow a wrestling company. Like, you have to just be established. That's just kind of how it is. Unless you're like, I don't know, a Paul brother. Like, could you just introduce a brand new soft drink to the market and just expect to compete with Coke and Pepsi? Or are you just going to quickly fail and be brushed off the shelves and clearanced out? Like, it's rough. So it's actually miraculous that companies like AEWs are going on year 5, or that TNA is going on year 22, kind of. It's like, it's very impressive. However, that's just them surviving. They're not really growing and thriving yet. So I don't know if TNA ain't doing it by now. I don't think anything they do is ever going to do it. It's mostly just about, kind of like everything in life, who right? If they're owned by a company that's not willing to do what it takes to put them into a bigger spotlight, they're not going to get one. And even if they are, that's not going to guarantee the people are going to watch it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And everybody talks about how well the WWE is doing these days, right? Like, financially, they're talking about raking it in and everything like that. But when you look at, you also look at the cable TV ratings, and we've talked about how those aren't as important to us, the fans, anymore, but they're certainly lower than they used to be. So, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough right now. It's a hard, you need to be grandfathered in like WWE for like 40 plus years in the people's minds just to sort of survive in this weird time where they're trying to figure out what to do between cable, TV, streaming, and all that, and like how people are going to how they're going to actually make money from their content anymore.
It helps too with WWE. They're an established brand. I mean, when you think of WWE, you think of their boom periods in the 80s with Hogan and Savage, and then in the 90s with Rock and Austin, and even to an extent in the mid late 2000s with John Cena.
Right. And those guys were products of their times. Like 100%. If Hulk Hogan was here today, he'd still struggle to, like, you know what I mean? No one would get that exact character. If he was young enough, he could probably figure out a way to get over before he was too old. But we couldn't have Hulkamania because there's too much other competing entertainment and nobody would care. You know what I mean? So it's when people say it's a different time, yes, they're using it as an excuse, but it's a valid excuse. Why are we talking about this? I don't know. I guess we're trying to say that it's hard for TNA to get visibility, and this app just is not necessarily going to do it. So they're going to have to figure out some way, and it's not because they're not going to try. TNA is going to try within their means, and we're going to see that, and we're going to talk about that throughout the show. Before we do that, there's some wrestling news, TNA related. So I thought we'd go over that real quick. And if there's any huge stories, which I did not see any huge stories, or if anything breaks, we'll fix it. But we'll start with a little bit of TNA news. Kylan King. You may remember her. It's one of the Bully Ray products, which may explains why her career thus far has been kind of meh. But she will be out of action for up to 12 months. That is confirmed by her on Instagram. So she had a knee dislocation, which we didn't witness this happen. It must have happened at some point, either off screen or she just worked through the rest of whatever match that we were watching and we didn't notice somehow. But no, it says indie show. So there you go. Yeah, she was at an indie show. She fucked up her knee on an indie show. Capping anybody. Torn ACL, sprained LCL, and damage to her MCL. So that's all the L's in one go. And so, yeah. She's gonna have a injury. Her injury will be surgically repaired the first week of February is when it's scheduled. So 9 to 12 months from there. They give you a 9 to 12 month timeline. The earliest you're probably going to be looking at coming back is if you're one of those super athletes, it's like 6 months maybe, but I wouldn't recommend coming back any sooner than that. Thing about the L's is they're ligaments. That's what the L is. And ligaments do not heal the same way things like muscles do. You know, if you tear a muscle or whatever, that can be, repaired relatively quickly. Ligaments don't. They are very slow to repair. And even a sprain, which is like a slight tear to a ligament, can take a year before it gets its full functionality back. So just her being able to wrestle doesn't mean that her ligaments are fully healed. Rough. So in any case, yeah, her statement is,
Shit.
okay, where did I leave off?
Like you said, her statement is, and then it froze.
I'm sorry. Sorry. We're having technical difficulties. Where did I leave off before I got
like literally said her statement is, and then it just froze.
Nope. Now Brandon's out. Maybe I'm not gone. I don't know. I don't know who's gone.
Damn.
Am I gone?
Testing.
I'll just keep reading. Keep reading. Um, yeah. Da, 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 da.
Test, 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 test.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Um. Anyway, so Kylan King just says she's the king of the knockouts, always going to be the one to watch. That's what she said. There you go. Kylan King. Thoughts on Kylan King and her injury?
Sucks. Like, one of the things I learned early on from somebody who had it happen to him was you don't fuck with knees and shoulders.
That's right. Anywhere you got a tendon or a ligament, you got to be extra careful. I made this joke on the wreckage where I was watching a Buddy Matthews match and I told him lift light because this guy is so ridiculously cartoonishly jacked that he's gonna tear something. So I'm just warning him, please. Don't lift any heavy weights. You're already jacked. Just continue to lift light with lots of reps and stay kind of big. Because what happens is when you take steroids, your muscles get very, very strong. Stronger than your ligaments and tendons. So you will be lifting more weight than is humanly possible for you to lift, and that's why they get injured so much. Guys like Batista or Jose Canseco or anybody that's ever been a practitioner that's suffered a lot of like those type of injuries. It makes you too strong for your own body. So you have to moderate your lifting because while you technically can lift it, it's way, 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 way too much strain. So that's how you have to balance that out if you're going to do that. And he is at that point where I don't think he may have been injured, but I don't want to accuse Kylan King of anything, but not a lot of women look like that. So
Lost you again. Damn it. There we go.
but there you go. I don't know. Yeah, when we go out like that, it looks like the chat says they can hear us, but I don't know. I don't know what it's like on their end. I just know that I'm going to kill somebody at Comcast. They're going to die. Just kidding, trademark. It's not a real threat on the air. Okay? Not that I would know if anybody could ever listen to this because of how bad it will probably sound. More TNA news. Trinity Fatu did finish up with TNA after the tapings. So she's got at least a couple more shows that we're going to see, including her, spoiler alert, her rematch for the title next week. So she's at least that one and one more. Yeah, as soon as looks like as soon as January's up, she's gone. So there you go. And possibly it's already done. So she could be Royal Rumble eligible if the timing works out. Any thoughts on Trinity and her run? Obviously, it was a highly high profile one for them and highly pushed.
It really kind of felt like, okay, I'm just kind of killing time until I go back to WWE. Like looking back at everything in hindsight is really what it felt like now.
Mm-hmm.
And
could she have done anything else herself? I mean,
not really. I mean, she pretty much did all she could do while she was there.
Yeah. She's just that kind of a person. It's not like she was phoning it in or anything. It's just that's how she always is, and she's gonna be like that when she goes back too. So, don't expect anything drastically different from her if she shows back up on Raw or SmackDown either. She'll have the same outfits, hair, entrance, and by same I mean outlandish, but different, like in terms of style and changing it up, but
The only way I could see things changing with her is if they inserted her into the Bloodline story.
they won't. They won't. They don't even know what to do with the Bloodline story. There is no Bloodline story. It's just, it was supposed to die at WrestleMania when Cody Rhodes became the champion, and they didn't do it. So they just limped along pretending that they were. But yes, everybody already knows the Bloodline's over. So who knows? But we may see a Rumble appearance. And let's get excited about it. So, in other news, reportedly backstage at these tapings, we've seen Shawn Spears from AEW. Maybe he's just there because he lives in Orlando, but maybe he was talking to people. So they also had, in addition to Shawn Spears, supposedly Mason Mansoor were there, and Alex Zane, he's worked in TNA before, so it's not like, not like that would be a crazy surprise. And also, well, I won't spoil this one if anybody hasn't seen it, because it will be on TV supposedly, so I won't say that one. But let's just say you probably seen him before, and he's going to work with somebody that's seen him before. But Mason Mansoor recently were on Keeping It 100, and during which time they mentioned that they were big fans of TNA. So there you go. Maybe this is a good landing spot for them, since it's TNA and they're big fans of it. I mean, what do you think, Mason Mansoor?
No, I could see it working out for those two guys. I mean, like what I've seen from what Mansoor's put out on his own, dude's got charisma out the ass. I mean, there's something there to do something with.
Yeah, I've said that before on podcasts, and people sort of scoffed at me for saying it. I mean, all you have to do is here's the thing. When I say something and like either one of my co-hosts or some people in the chat scoff at me, it's like, dude, I'm me. Do you understand what that means? I've seen more wrestling than you've ever even dreamed about. So when I'm talking about I seen this, I didn't wait till he got this gimmick that Vince McMahon tried to give him. Like, I could see this stuff from back when he did the Saudi Arabia tryout thing, which he admitted he was sort of a ringer, but still, I mean, just because you're a ringer for something like that doesn't mean that you don't have anything. And I watched him when he was on, like main event and having matches that nobody was seeing. You would have had to been either live at the taping, or you would have had to fire up your Hulu and watch his main event match against whatever random person they have, the Apollo Crews or whatever, you would have had to seen that. I saw it. And this is way before he ever got the model gimmick. I know the guy's good, and I would have used him not as a Saudi Arabian wrestler, but as a wrestler, because that's one of those things that when people say, oh, they're trying to push so-and-so because they want to break into the so-and-so market, it's like, dumb motherfuckers. Look, WWE's already in the markets. They're in all the markets. And you're not going to get any more in the markets because you push a nationality or an ethnicity. If you want to have a superstar for a local region, you have to want them to be a superstar everywhere in the world. Because the guys that are over in places like that are the guys that are over everywhere, like John Cena or The Undertaker or whatever, like those worldwide stars. So just because a guy has a skin color or is from a country, they don't care. People in India don't care about Jinder Mahal because he's Canadian. That's it. people, if you know, people in the Middle East don't care about Ali because he's fucking from Chicago. They know, you know, they care about megastars. Those guys aren't megastars, so they're not over in those countries or places, you know. So anyway, what was my point? Oh yes, Mansoor's good and Mesa's good. He's very charismatic. They thought enough of him at one time to put him on the commentary desk on Monday Night Raw, and his exit from that was getting F5 through the table by Brock Lesnar. I wonder how many people remember that, but it happened. So, yeah, man, bring him into TNA. We need a tag division. If you're going to have tag team titles, you need a tag division. And everybody's tag team division everywhere sucks. WWE sucks. Even though they have the most potential for tag teams there, TNA sucks, AEW sucks, New Japan sucks, MLW sucks, NWA sucks. There are no good tag divisions. So if these guys are friends and they want to be a tag team going forward, yes, please do.
Yeah, those two seem like they'd be the kind of fall into the category of the tag team where it's like they're not like all that similar, but they complement each other perfectly.
Yeah, not everybody has to be a Tony Gurria tag team. Yeah.
You're wearing black and you're wearing black. All right, you're a tag team.
Right. Or you are black and you are black. That's another classic that goes a little bit, I don't want to say unspoken because we speak it. But anyway, yeah, that looks like all the news, rumors, and innuendos currently going on. But did you hear anything else during the week?
Nah, not been a bit of a quiet week this week, but I'm sure that'll change as we get closer to WrestleMania.
Yes, it will. All right, well, TNA has just recently returned, and that we're now just getting sort of a taste of it. But you know what? I think it could taste a little bit better with certain ingredients and recipe changes, right? Because you know what else is making its big return? Not only TNA is back, but Punching Up Impact is back from what I hear. That's the rumors and the scuttlebutt that I've heard. Brandon, what do you have? Do you know anything about this? Have you heard about this? Have you read about this?
Yeah, I did hear about this. It is in fact back, and we're going to save it for the end of the show this week because it is actually a punch-up of this very show.
Whoa! My goodness, a future punch-up. All right. Well, there you go. There's your tease for later. Stick around to the end of the review. No lab rat. He's not punching up recaps. Recaps are done. We're out of here. No more recaps. All right. We start this brand new fresh episode of TNA with a recap. It is hard to kill recap. They're letting you know everything that you missed because you damn sure didn't pay $9.99 plus the pay-per-view for that app, right? So, they show you everything, or at least everything they want you to see. And then at the sort of end of it, we get like a montage style. The System arrives in Las Vegas. We see them looking rich or whatever. So there's your little lead into the into our first match, which is a X Division 6-way match. All right.
Thought it was a 5-way.
You count with me. Kushida, Trey Miguel, Laredo Kid, Mike Bailey,
right. I totally
Vikingo,
Laredo Kid. I forgot about him. Yep.
Yeah, we all forgot about him. He's only here because Trent Seven wasn't. And Jake Something is the 6th, and it's a 6-way. So I don't know what this is for. Was this for something?
Yes, the number 1 contendership for the X Division title.
Okay. Let's make it sure. Well, let's just go ahead and say that Jake Something is going to pin Laredo Kid with the Something Slam, I think is what it's called. I defy you to come up with a better name.
I believe they're calling it Into the Void, and they're saying it's they were also referencing that it was Abyss's original finish or Abyss's finisher.
I see. All right. So something slam. Got it. And he is your number one contender as the odd man out of this sextet. This is the most TNA way to start TNA, I guess. Guys doing stuff. So, what were your thoughts on it? Any, if any?
All I could think, all that's reminded me of was back, like, I remember at a show, one show I did where I was doing a pre-show at IWA Mid-South. And it's like, okay, you're on the pre-show, you guys. It's like 6 of you guys. You got 5 minutes. Just go out there and do it.
Does that include entrances or?
Yes. And they all had, oh, no, I'm sorry. It was 7 of us. And we all came out to the same song, Seven Nation Army.
I see. Well, were you guys a faction or something?
No, it was just a save time on entrances.
I see. So it was a rib, basically, is what you're saying.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
that's
it was
fine.
and this is basically what this match felt like. Okay, everybody gets one thing in when they get to shine, and then waterfall, somebody goes over.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a 7-way noggin knocker to start, and then a septuple count out. No. Okay. Yeah. They used to when I was at OVW, they used to rib JTG by playing Barbie Girl. So he would have to like come out to Barbie Girl, and he wouldn't put it over. He would just do his normal routine, but he would just do it in time to the beat of Barbie Girl instead.
Okay, that's still like doing it the right way. It's like, okay, I'm acknowledging it, but I'm leaning into it, but I'm doing it in character.
Right. Yeah, when I say he wouldn't put over, I mean he wouldn't sell it, basically. You know, I mean he would go with it. So yeah, number one rule in wrestling, except for the other number ones, don't sell a rib. Never sell a rib. So yeah. All right. Well, anyway, I don't know if this is a rib, but something goes over, so here we are. Then we get Ospreay with Gia and no music underneath. His promo is a bunch of English, sort of. I say sort of because you know how English people speak English all wrong. And he just yells at the camera a lot, but he's talking to Josh Alexander saying, I beat you in your own house. I'm a world beater. You're supposed to be the world beater of this company. You need to step up and do it. That's basically what he had to say. So it was fine. I appreciate the message that he's trying to say here. His promo actually made sense. It wasn't just a bunch of rambling wrestler nonsense, although he was yelling at me. So, I was a little I was clutching my purse, but I survived. Did you like Will Ospreay's fired up message to Josh Alexander?
No, that's one thing I've always liked about Ospreay is his promos. He's got his character. He's got charisma. Just quit doing the dumb shit in the ring that kills yourself, man.
No, he's not going to do that. Sorry. No deal.
As we'll
well,
see
I
later.
mean, that's the thing. You're seeing him now. He's better than he was. If you can believe it. If you can believe it. All right. So next is a vignette for Ash by Elegance. So this is like if a perfume ad was a human being, I guess, is the best way I could describe this. With the voiceover and everything. Yeah. So what do you think of that? That's like, we haven't quite done this level of douchebaggery in wrestling yet, where somebody's their own perfume ad.
Nah, I like this. It was different, and the fact that they, went all out and they did the whole they had the whole copyright, like legal stuff at the bottom of it at the end. Like just those little touches are what make the difference.
Okay. I missed all that. I don't know if they heard it. You said they did the whole, and then I didn't hear anymore after that.
Oh, they did the whole at the very end of the thing. They did like the copyright, 2024 at the bottom of the screen at the end of the ad, which it's those little touches that just is the nuances are like that to set the difference of like, okay, we're actually putting in the effort to like make this what it is or make it as good as it can be.
Yeah, I did like this. It's just, you know, I'm already looking forward to the future because this is definitely a case of and then the bell rings. So they got to get all the character and gimmick shit in to get this over. And then they showed the part where Giselle Shaw grabbed the X, and then she's like backstage starting to do a promo, and then Gail Kim comes in and says, "That's the Giselle Shaw that I know. You don't need the Chantourage," which isn't that what you've been saying this whole time? Are you secretly Gail Kim, or are you feeding Gail Kim? Don't hold out on me.
Maybe she watches the show.
Oh, she should. If she's really in charge of shit, she needs to be watching this show. Everybody needs to watch this show if you're in charge over there. We'll tell you how it is, especially at the end of this show.
Yeah, this definitely felt like it was setting up for a Giselle Shaw face turn.
Yeah. All right.
Which is long overdue because, like I've always been saying on here, like the whole cunty mean girl personality, that just seems so forced.
Well,
to
yeah.
me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something. Yeah. I don't know. All right. Well, we do have a new face, literally and figuratively here. It's Tasha Steelz versus Xia Brookside, who we saw in another 6-person match at Hard to Kill. But yeah, I wrote down here, Tasha can finally work a same size match. If that gives you any idea about, you know, the measurements of Xia Brookside. So they have a match. It's all right. I've seen worse. Definitely seen better. Xia wins with the, what they call it, the Brooksy bomb. It's like a blackout. Like if you've seen Lance Archer do the blackout off the top rope, it's like that. And then she does like the little English leg clutch thing over the legs over the shoulders, sitting down gimmick. Snave, it's if you see you just look it up. But I felt the finish itself came off flat. Like it didn't really feel like it was a good comeback to dip. The comeback was like what, 3 clotheslines, like the laziest comeback in wrestling. Just overall not impressed with this match. I assume it was kind of in Tasha's hands. I haven't seen a lot of Tasha up until recently, so I don't know if she's actually not been doing anything in the ring or if you know, she just no chemistry, or Zaya's too green. She's definitely green. How green? I don't know. It wasn't the best. But yeah, just overall not impressed with this. What about you?
Now this came off incredibly flat. I think the crowd noticed it too. I mean, they were sitting on their hands pretty much the entire match and didn't really react much at all to the finish.
Yeah.
This kind of just felt like a introduction to Xia Brookside rather than anything else. And they put her in there with somebody who's a competent heel who can help make her look good. This just didn't register at all.
Right. Competent heel who has not been behaving like a heel. She's sort of been like, she wants to be a fan favorite, right? Like we only assume she's a heel because she has been, right? It's like there's nothing they're doing with her character right now to push us in that direction. I also don't think that the tired sort of, well, we're debuting somebody and they need to get a strong win to get over. Like, I don't think so.
Yeah, that formula is played out.
I think you can get over in a loss if you're supposed to. If we want to get behind Xia, we have to give her something to. You have to give us some reason, right? Like if she comes in and beats everybody, it's like, oh well, I guess she's the best. You know, like there's really nothing there. If we want to see anything from her, we have to start from somewhere and build. So beating Tasha at this point doesn't really help her at all. It just makes people say like, who the fuck is this beating Tasha Steelz? So yeah. Speaking of which, Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian are walking. See them. And then we get another recap of the Cheeto Championship song and deal with Joe Hendry and AJ Francis. And it turns out, as Joe Hendry's explaining, that he regrets how the situation went down, but he did get a sweet laptop out of it. Although the laptop is a little damaged now, so he's going to have to end up throwing it away. And as he throws it away in the trash can, we can see that the trash can is already filled with DJ Who Kid. So it's a little full, but yeah, there's Joe Hendry. What'd you think of this?
No, I thought it was entertaining. And, Joe Hendry being Joe Hendry, and then the last little, swerve of TJ Woo Kid in the trash can, and then having his laptop thrown on him.
Yes. And just so everybody's clear, it's not like this big industrial trash can or anything like you would take out to the street. This was like a smaller, it's like a glorified large wastebasket, and he's like sticking out of it, He's
like
just
in a V
in their
shape,
ass
yeah.
first. Yeah. Very funny. So yeah, okay, that's good. And Joe Hendry, good promo too. Just not gonna completely gloss over that, but the whole thing is sort of based in comedy. So, but I like it. I'm not offended by this level of comedy. Obviously, there's some malice behind it because he stuffed a human being in a small trash can, right? So that's letting you know that even though he's jokingly, insincere apologies and everything like that, he is vicious. There's malice.
I mean, to be fair, DJ Who Kid attacked him first.
That's true. It's so fair. So yeah. All right, here we go. Grizzly Young Veterans versus the TNA Originals team of Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian. So this is the kind of Grizzly Young Veterans, I think, that make a better impression than just being in a four corners match where it's like, all right, which spots, who gets which spots to do. So yeah. I'll let you go first on this one. What did you see in this? Just the match itself before we get to the post match. Any thoughts on the GYV and this match?
I liked this match. I thought it was the perfect match to kind of help establish Grizzly Young Vets, show off what they can do, get their stuff over against an established team that when they went over would give them a kind of a boosting win that would help, push them to the next stage. And with the story that ends up building out of it, yeah, right team absolutely went over. The finish was the right finish, and I like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Unlike the Tasha and Zaya situation, this was for several reasons, the right way to go. Yeah, anything in particular stick out about the Grizzly Young Veterans from this match?
They're one of the few young guys I've seen that get it.
I mean, they're probably not that young.
Yeah,
young enough, but yeah.
But yeah, like I've seen them do like the crazy spot fest stuff, but they can also do the character, methodical, work the crowd, actually work. And they showed that here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like I said before, Zach Gibson, I thought was main event level money in WWE, and I just didn't think they were going to do it. And I was right. They saw him as NXT tag team, but I was like, I'm looking at top 3 heels. You know what I mean? I'm looking at like Roman Reigns, Walter, and Zach Gibson. You know what I mean? I'm looking at that. I'm talking about that level. Like he could get that much heat. Because people just fucking hate that guy. But yeah, like he's definitely the star of this, but when he and Drake are working together, they can do some good stuff. But even the simple stuff, like when they're just doing the basic stuff at the beginning, just the chain wrestling part, It's more the intensity and the animation of which they're doing the things that make it interesting. They're not just going through the motions. Like you see guys grab a headlock just to get shot off. You know what I mean? Like it gets really tiresome if you've watched wrestling for a long time.
Right. It feels like, okay, I'm going to this because we're transitioning into the next spot instead of I'm doing this to try to inflict, pain on this person, and they're fighting up and getting into position to counter that.
Right. When the grizzled ones grab a headlock or an arm wringer or something like that, it looks like they're trying to win the match with it. That's the difference. They're not just going to their next thing to set it up. Even when they do something that we've seen way too much of, like a dive spot, the way they do it, the setup for it is like the best possible way. And they're the heels. Like they're the heels doing a dive spot the way it should be done. And the way they did it, you had Gibson take Kazarian outside the ring, and Kazarian gets over, and then James Drake just launches himself into Kazarian from the blind side. So he doesn't see the dive coming. But they use that as like the start of the heat. You know what I mean? It's like, it's different than just, oh, I'm just going to dive because it's time, or I'm going to jump up and down in place before I hit the ropes and dive,
Right,
they're
like
actually doing it correctly.
Yeah, like in that instance, that the think or the psychology is Kazarian ain't looking. My partner's down there. If I can take Kazarian out, I can turn us into a 2-on-1.
That's right. And all through that, even just getting the heat, they're working character during the heat. They're talking trash, they're doing that other stuff. They're acknowledging the crowd and whatever. They're not just doing the next thing. And that's what you see when you watch TNA and you're just like, something's missing from a lot of these matches. It's that kind of stuff. It's making you feel like they're in the moment and not just trying to remember. So that actually working the tag gimmick, like building the match around the idea of tagging, whether it's the heels constantly tagging or preventing the babyface from tagging to work to a hot tag like you're supposed to, I
thought the hot tag build in this match was great.
Yeah. And the hot tag itself was unique. Like maybe they bumped the guys a few too many times beforehand, but where he goes for the wheel kick and Frankie just rolls under it to tag Eric Young was good. The crowd seemed to like it as much as they were going to, but it was short-lived because after Eric made a little bit of a comeback, they hit the grit your teeth on him, and that's 1, 2, 3. After they got rid of Kazarian, and then afterwards, Kazarian's like, oh, we lost. Oh, well, okay, maybe next time. And then just clotheslines Eric Young. Oh, you piece of shit. Boo. Boo. He's like yelling at him like, this was supposed to be my year. Like it's Eric Young's fault that this is not his year. The crowd starts... Lavrat says, hey, Frankie, is that how a Kowalski guy's supposed to act? Exactly. There was a fuck you Frankie chant. I didn't like how just cliche this is. I'm just tired of people turning on people. I'm so tired of it. There's not a turn that you could do in wrestling like this that I will get behind. You can't convince me that what we need is another guy clotheslining his partner or whatever bullshit way they just choose to turn on their partner. It's so done. It's so over. And I don't mean the good kind of over. It's the only good thing I'll say about this is that unlike some TNA in the past, this is just smack dab in the middle of the show and it's not a main event angle, but they let it breathe a little bit. They definitely let you feel the moment of this guy turned on this guy instead of just being like, oh, a clothesline to Eric Young. Well, anyway, coming up next, we've got, whatever, and you can buy your micro brawler, like they usually do. Just gloss over anything that happens, ABC wins the tag team titles and they get to celebrate for 5 seconds before they cut to the backstage. Those type of things that they're known for doing.
New tag team champions, and then we're going to go to the back with Gia and Macklin.
That's right. Yeah. Who can, they're basically, if you just insert the announcers saying, but who cares about that? Because then everything would just be fine. But anyway, yeah, they they let this breathe, so that was at least a positive thing here. What about you? How did you take this turn?
It definitely felt kind of not completely out of nowhere. I mean, did make some sense if you look at, the loss that they took the night before and then, this. And I think the finish of the match was I think one of the Grizzly Young vets ducking, and when Kazarian swung and he hit Young, Kazarian got fucked off, and then they finished off Young, if I remember correctly. So the turn kind of did play into the finish a little bit.
Yeah,
And
it did, but
my main takeaway from this, that it looks like they're finally going with the fade to black for Kazarian's finisher, which I've been saying he needs to use as a finish for a long time.
Yep. Well, yep. I mean, yep. Fade to black. If you don't know what that is, it's like the dead eye that Hangman Page does.
Like a reverse pile driver, think of that. Like a pile driver from the backside instead of the front.
Yeah, you're going to do an Alabama slam,
but
and then you turn into a tombstone.
Yep.
But not the front way. Anyway, look, you've seen Hangman Page. And you've probably seen Frankie Kazarian. So, you know it. But my thing is this. You could do the turn if you want. I'm not saying that. But for these guys, you're robbing yourself of weeks of television by doing it this way. Yeah, like instead of this post match, right? Should be camera catches up with them in the back talking about it. And they're like, Eric Young's like, oh yeah, I don't know what happened. And Kaz's like, well, I would think at this point in your career, you should know what happened. And he's like, what's that supposed to mean? And he's like, it means what it means. Look, you're a liability to yourself and me. So, if we're going to keep doing this, then, you got to get your head in it, whatever. And then you could leave it there and then have another tag team match with them or something or whatever. But you start there. You don't just start and finish it right there. Like the turn out of nowhere, just because it's not shocking enough. This is not everybody thinks they're doing Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window, and they're fucking not. They're just not. So if you want to turn two baby faces or one of the baby faces that have been longtime friends and have been carrying the flag for this company, like not just in the past, but like the rebrand, wasn't Kazarian the guy that got the box of TNA out of the lake? So
even like the Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels thing, what made that special was there was even like weeks and maybe, I think if I remember correctly, months of tension leading up to that. Plus, the whole history of them being a tag team.
Oh man. Apologies. I'm sure Brandon made a wonderful point about the Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels thing. I didn't hear it though.
Test 1 2.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. I can hear you now.
Damn. But... Okay, I'll repeat that then. Like what made like a lot of things that people, or one of the big things people forget about what made the whole Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels thing special was that there was like weeks or even months of tension leading up to it, plus the whole story of their tag team of them being a team for years.
Right. So yeah, this was just whatever. All right. Then we get a little bit of more of a system montage images here, like Moose lighting cigars and whatnot. So anytime you get more Moose on the screen is good. And then they show the system sitting down for a meal at what looks to be an affordable restaurant in Las Vegas. Could have been the Sam's Town buffet for all I know. I've eaten at the Sam's Town buffet. It didn't look too much different.
Looked almost like a cheesecake factory.
Yeah. So not the most. You could have splurged for a little more expensive looking place if you're trying to get this over. If you're trying to get the affluence over. But whatever. They look like a booth that you'd be in with like your family when you're on vacation.
I'll say this though, I'm liking they're doing something different with the presentation. Like they're trying to push these guys. All right, they're high rollers, they're big players. It's so they're making these guys look important, like a big deal, and I like that they're putting the effort in.
Yes.
And it's very different from what all three of those guys were doing beforehand.
Yes. However, just pick a better restaurant. This is Fridays with the appetizer on the side. Yeah, it's like if we can afford it, it's not expensive enough for the show. Like if I could go in there and eat there, like I can afford maybe I can afford one dish, but I couldn't do this on a regular basis, right? So
I can get an appetizer, maybe a dessert.
yeah, they're like, sir, please leave. Water's not on the menu. So, but yeah, so they're talking, and of course they just kind of hit the catchphrases. Moose says, "Always trust the system," and there you go. So I like the idea, like you said. I like the presentation.
And now we lost that. There we go.
Yeah, I like what they're trying to do. This is like, I'm already starting to feel like Moose is an afterthought as champion again in his own company. Is what I think.
Oh, we changed that in the punch up.
Yeah, can't
like
wait.
We get more of these vignettes. So I thought that was a great idea of like sprinkling those in throughout the show. There's like them at the restaurant, like showing the system and just like who they are and what they're about, and just the whole like presentation, and it's getting more opportunities to see in that rather than just like the 2 or 3 that we saw on this show.
Yeah. Well, again, looking forward to that. Want to hear that. Instead, we're going to hear Nick Nemeth. Here's Nick Nemeth. This is what we've all been wanting. He's the wanted man, you guys. The wanted man, Nick Nemeth. Whatever that means. Like he did get released, so he's not that wanted. But
he's wanted, dead or alive.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. Preferably dead. But anyway, this is big in-ring promo, and he gets to he gets to say his thing about how he'd done a bunch of stuff, but he's in TNA and he's excited, and he's not just going to walk in and cut the line and challenge for the championship. He does want to be the champion, but he's going to earn it. That whole thing. Gonna earn it, blah, blah, blah. He's gonna earn it. Burt Macklin interrupts. I've never been so happy to see him. He gets his full entrance though. And then he comes in and he says he agrees with him, but he sees a phony. He doesn't think that he's been the same places that Nick Nemeth has, and he just thinks he's gonna be a vampire and suck the company dry and move on. And he says no one's going to remember Nick Nemeth. They're just going to ask whatever happened to Dolph Ziggler. And everybody goes, oh! And then they get into a fight. And, of course, Nick Nemeth hits him with a wrestling move. The zigzag. Or is it the Nick Zag? I don't know what he's going to call that.
The cones.
So, yeah, this was it. Here you go. Here's the guy that I can't escape. Just going everywhere. But perhaps you had a different view of this.
I mean, it really felt to me like Nemeth's promo was kind of over the top pandering, which is kind of like, why is he doing that? But then once Macklin came out and called him out for it and said like, this is I think you're just trying, full of crap. You're fake and phony. Like, okay, now the over the top pandering makes sense. I think they're going somewhere with that.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think the over the top pandering was an accident.
Oh, I don't
That's just
either.
how he is. That's how he is. Like, not actually, I should rephrase it. I think it was an accident in the sense of that's just what he thinks a babyface promo is. When I say this guy is too unlikable to be a babyface, I'm talking about stuff like this. Like, he was trying his best to be a babyface here, I think. My opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. Again, I'm just saying, to me, it felt like it was intentionally over the top to set up something long term down the line where he is, fake, phony, and Macklin was right about what he's saying.
It could be. I don't know. I find that despite my misgivings, I find that this is actually a compelling place for Nemeth to start as like a legitimate babyface, because I just don't think he can do it. But if he ever is, he's got to use the equity that he's built up with all the fans except for me in the world, and channel that into being a babyface. Because now it's like you don't really want to boo him, because now we're looking at the guy's career. We're not booing the man. We're cheering the man. What we cheer for in wrestling now is like we cheer the booking, we cheer furniture, and we cheer songs, and that's about it. Like, if it's not a sing along, we don't care. If you're not if you're not putting somebody through a table, we don't care. And if you're not getting booked right, then we get angry. But other than that, we're no longer cheering for individual athletes or things like that. It's just, it's in the meta now. So with that, people perceiving, oh, this guy got released. I've always liked him. He's really good. Now he's a babyface, whether he likes it or not. But in the past, he's just too disingenuous, and he's trying to be a babyface. He just doesn't know how to be a good babyface. He just doesn't. So that's why I suspect that this promo is him being as genuine of a babyface in a working way as he possibly can. And Macklin would say what he say regardless, because he's a heel. That's my take on it. Time will tell what they do. But, oh yeah, and cakes. Sorry, Todd Brantley. Yes, we cheer cakes too. But I'm just saying. Yeah. And even to the point of him being a heel, the problem with him being a heel is he doesn't get any real heat. He still flops around and just puts people in chin locks for 10 minutes. Like, Luke Gallows is like, God damn, this guy used a lot of chin locks. That's not heat, He doesn't do anything vicious in a match to get heat. It's just, God damn it. All right, let's move on. Let's move on from this. Let's go to Jordan Grace with Gia and no music underneath, interrupted by Trinity, who invokes her rematch for next week. So it's about as plain as all that. This was a cheese sandwich of a segment here.
Not even a grilled cheese.
Nope, didn't grill it. Just put a piece of cheese in white bread and just ate it like that. No toast. Just cold white bread with a slice of Kraft singles.
Yeah. American singles.
American singles. White American singles.
Yeah, the kind that if you take a slice of it and you put a lighter underneath it, it doesn't burn up and melt. It just sets up. It just burns, gets caught on fire.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that would be better than this. Yeah. Speaking of a grilled cheese sandwich, Jay Vidal's in the ring. He is grilled, I would say. He's in the ring. He's saying, I started my career in Las Vegas. And everybody kind of cheers. And he's like, what? I couldn't wait to get out of here, or whatever he said. He just did the He did the heel thing so that this could turn into a PCO match. So they even rolled him out with all the scientists and doctors and everything and revived him again.
They even have the whole trigger phrase of "There's nobody here who can beat me." Oh, cue PCO's music.
Yeah, yeah. I was just laughing at the top right. No bread, no water, just plain cheese.
That's all he wants.
I like.
That's all he needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we get Black Snow back now that TNA is? Come on.
And
Let Booker T be the first person to pull double duty commentary on TNA and WWE at the same time. Make history, guys.
Him
Make
doing
moments.
commentary while he's beating people up was great.
It's still one of my favorite things. He sees Peter Williams. He sees him standing there. Oh, yeah. Yes.
And Scott Steiner ring announcing.
He hit him with the blueprint bomb.
Hailing from Dunkin' Donuts from the great state of obesity.
Yeah. It's Black Snow, Todd Brantley. Black Snow, 100%. Black Snow and Chet Lemon. Chet Lemon was Kevin Nash. All right, well, we're about to get another cheese sandwich. Do we need to talk about PCO? I mean,
there
you
was
can say anything if you want.
The one thing I noticed is that it seems like PCO looks like he's kind of starting to finally take it a little bit easy. Because you notice when he went over with just a moonsault. And didn't do anything crazy after that either. Like what? The only other movie hit was a chokeslam?
Yeah. Frankly, that could have been enough. So. Well, let's hope. Yeah, because PCO's like the wrestling anomaly, right? He's an old guy that does all those flips that everybody tells the young guys not to do, but he's all character.
Exactly.
Like, none of this makes sense.
And not only all character, but all character that doesn't make any sense at all.
Like super gimmick, super character. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing more we can say. He already knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, his entrance now consists of him being wheeled out on a gurney by like 5 scientists who zap him back to life.
Do you think the scientists get an advance? Like they go up to... Like, who handles the money in TNA, do you think? Like, who gives them the $100 cash? It's like, here you go, $500 that we don't need to spend. How awesome was the main event Mafia, by the way? Says Todd Brantley. Kind of awesome. In retrospect, certainly. Yeah. Javi said Dreamer. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, I've just been trying to get to this. So the Motor City Machine Guns cut a promo. It's in the danger of being a cheese sandwich, but then Okada walks in and then it turns grilled real quick. They flip it over, grill the other side, a lot of butter. Next week, Okada returns to TNA. But we've already seen this advertised, so it's not that big of a surprise. It's supposed to be the Guns and Okada versus Moose and, the System guys. So, there you go. What else? Oh, yeah, main event time. Will versus Josh Part 2. Take it away, Brandon.
Well, I'll say the first few minutes, I liked it. I thought it was a decent match. They were building to something where everything made sense. I understood why they did what they did. Then once they got to the outside and the table got involved, it turned into just a super indie cliche from there.
Yeah, my one note was Tiger Driver through table.
Exactly. Yup. Like after that, I was kind of zoned out. Like, okay, then nothing from here means anything anymore.
Nope.
But I will say, like, if they would have condensed this and made it like a more methodical match, and then went home with the same finish they went home with, this would have been so much better.
So you want condensed and methodical?
Well, I mean, for like, I don't know, like instead of 30 minutes, go maybe 10, 12.
But this is epic. This is the return of TNA. We're giving you pay-per-view for free. Got to go 30 with a table.
Yeah, yeah, but if we're going TNA, I mean, TNA would put it in a cage too.
Yeah. Todd Brantley has a good question. Tiger Driver 91 or 98, and what's the difference? This was a Tiger Driver 24. Because it was through a table.
I thought it was 37.
30 set in a row? I don't think they were doing tables in All Japan. So therefore, you know, I don't think it gets a year. But yeah. They were like the whole Tiger Driver and the year thing started because they were like big moments back then. Like it was wasn't it I thought it was Misawa that used the Tiger Driver, and I believe he it was just the normal Pearl River plunge style that you would see Ahmed Johnson use, or those type of guys, where he hooks the arms and then it turns into like a sit out.
Because every time I always saw like a something called a Tiger Driver, it always began with a double underhook or tiger something.
Right. Tiger is when you underhook the arms. Like Dragon is when you do like the full Nelson.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Yep.
So everybody just mocks Japanese wrestling and everything now. So I know everybody, God forbid anybody actually know anything about the history of stuff with guys that took it seriously. But anyway, the point is they did the Tiger Driver. And in 1991, I believe it was, I forget if it was like Kawada or whoever he did it to, but he took when guys would like kick out of one of the guys' finishers, it was a big deal, and that was like when they realized they had to step it up a notch. So the Tiger Driver 91 is where he basically turned it into almost a pile driver. No, like the sit out wasn't a sit out. He went to his knees and dropped the guy on his like head and neck, like high on his head and neck, and that finished him. And he like only used that in rare instances, that when a guy was like to emphasize how tough a guy was to beat. So Javi says Akira Taue, so thank you. Yeah, one of those guys. Although he's used it on multiple people, and every time it got a year, it's because it was to denote the fact that in this year he had to use the Tiger Driver version, like a variation, to beat a guy. So it was their way of telling stories when they don't have like weekly soap opera TV. They told their stories within the matches, and from rematch to rematch, they would tell these stories. Like when we were talking about a couple months ago, we were talking about the Burning Hammer and how somebody threw away in a match. And then later on, after I did some research, I messaged you and I was like, Kobashi used the Burning Hammer 7 times in his entire career. There's guys that let people kick out of it every month. So, yeah.
Yeah, like that's one thing I've always kind of one where there's not been much more experimenting or working with is like having different levels of moves where you have like, okay, this move finishes off these guys. And if I hit that move on on like an even higher level of guys and they kick out, okay, I got to bust out this thing to beat those guys.
Right. Yes, it's part of their pop culture type stuff. You see that in, it's in manga and anime characters and shit like that too, or even like Godzilla monster movies. Like you got to bring out a new move.
There's one instance I'll never forget where it was a long time ago. It was actually in TNA. Rhino and Jesse Neal. Rhino went over with a spine buster.
Is that better than a gore,
No,
or is
I
it
mean,
just that Jesse Neal's not worthy of a gore?
I think that's what they were trying to sell at that point, because at that time Jesse Neal was just a trainee who just came up, so logically somebody like Rhino should be able to beat him with a regular spine buster.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so it's a form of storytelling in Japan. But when you have whiteface Japanese wrestling like Will Ospreay, then you just do whatever through tables for no reason and just a bunch of shit, and you just let people kick out because you don't really understand. You just work there. It's just like anybody has a job they're not properly trained for, and they just continue to have a job until they don't, whether they get fired or whether they just quit or whatever. So, you know, Will Ospreay does what he wants, except in this match because he takes a C4, and that is the end of Will Ospreay in TNA already. Josh Alexander gets his win back, and then Scott D'Amore comes in and starts screaming to the point of losing his voice at us in his big speech. So, any thoughts on Scott D'Amore's speech, or any closing thoughts on this long main event?
I'll say at the very least, I believed everything that he was saying, because that passion they came through the screen.
Yep.
I believe he believed everything he was saying.
Okay. He could stop screaming at me though.
Yeah, he could definitely tone down the screaming.
Yeah. I think. But all right, well, TNA's back. So there you go. And overall thoughts on the show, I felt like they definitely had a different sort of a feel to it. It was more of a live feeling, if you notice the way, just the overall photography of the show. They filmed the show and it felt more live, even though we knew it was taped. So it did have that sort of live feeling to it. The exteriors, or not exteriors, they're exteriors from the ring, but they're interiors of buildings. They went and they didn't just find like a utility closet and stick a RGB light in front of it. They went and found some place that looked kind of interesting, and they shot their things there, made it look so more natural. They had some more voiceovers for transition packages and montages and things like that. Like instead of having the announcer sit there and just put up graphics of everything that's going to happen next week, they turn that into a package with a voiceover that's not, one of the announcers at the desk. So like they did make some changes. None of them are like jarring or major changes, because even Impact has had episodes that looked live before. But this time I just felt like it is slightly different. It's just they could have done stuff like this without rebranding. They could have made these changes without a rebrand. But if they stay consistent with the changes and the look of the show, then that's definitely a step up. I would say they're moving up in terms of production. But there are still some things that are they just are what they are, and this is how this company is going to do it no matter what it's named. So that was my take on it. There may have been another thing or two that I remember seeing that I was like, oh, that's a little bit different. But even everything that was different, I've seen them do it before. The question is, will they make that standard now? What about you? Any overall impressions of the show?
I felt it was a step in the right direction. Obviously, I think they have more steps they need to take further, but from like the last show that we saw, like the last original full Impact that we saw, this honestly was like, in my opinion, one of the better ones we've seen in months. Like, and we're going even further back into 2023 before they went into Clip Show Mania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, ball's in their court still. They've already got these episodes in the can. 2 more weeks in the can. So we'll see what we do. The chat weighs in. Retro Rocker Review says energy was way up. Much better show this week. I already answered the question about the lights. They weren't there. Not on this episode. And Todd Brantley says he liked it. Looking forward to it more than WWE or AEW. So there you go. Yeah, you're looking forward to it because they've got an opportunity to impress you again because they're telling you they're rebranding. Only time will tell if they can keep that interest, but yeah. And things like the ramp is a level walkway to the ring, as Retro is pointing out, it's like they've done that before. It depends on the venue. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think that's the biggest thing. We need a consistency even from venue to venue. If you're traveling, you're going to do a set of tapings in a place. That set of tapings has got to look and feel similar to the previous one, even if it's in a different place. I don't mean look as in like, you got to have the same, janitor's closet that you shoot in front of. I just mean the filmic quality of it. Does it feel like it's 24 frames per second or does it feel like it's 60 frames per second? So that kind of thing. Carry consistency across your production. No more sound issues. We don't need any more sound issues. Try to make sure those don't crop up like they have in the past. Step up everything. Don't just change the aprons and ropes. That's my thing. Yeah. What's the huge surprise that Scott D'Amore is promising us in 2023 for TNA in 2024? I don't know. You could say anything.
I'm pretty sure that was Dolph Ziggler or Nick Nemeth.
Probably. But it's not like he ever would come out and confirm like, yes, my big surprise was Dolph Ziggler. He won't say that. It's just he'll say you have a big surprise and then he'll leave it to you to guess what of the different things that happened was a surprise. So that is yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do. It's early. I don't want to be too critical. It is a step up in energy. It is a step up in look. And then all we get is one moose at a restaurant table. So I don't know. Don't make him another transitional champion is my advice. Gail Kim, who's watching, wink. I think she's probably not in charge of Moose's stuff, but she can pass it along. But anyway, they're going to want to pass along this next section because I think we're now ready for the punching up Impact for this week. No longer a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks behind. We are now current. And we are punching up TNA Impact trademark. So,
yep.
Let's get to that as I close my eyes and try to imagine this world that's being built and not sleeping.
Yep, and we get a lot more moose with this one. So we open up with a recap in our catch-up packet, go to intro, pyro, and ballyhoo, and then cut it to the announce table where they put over Hard to Kill and welcome viewers to the first Impact under the new TNA rebrand. And they talk about recent events and talk about their thoughts of Hard to Kill. We go to an in-ring of the System music and entrance. Brian Myers talks about his motivation for aligning in Moose with Edwards, and Edwards gives his motivation for aligning with Moose and Myers. And then Moose lays out the game plan of them making TNA as a whole a part of the System. And the next phase of that plan is Edwards and Myers becoming the tag champs. Moose says they're going to spend the rest of the night partying in Vegas, and they leave the ring. And then we go to our first match, which is the 6-way scramble for the number 1 contendership for the X Division title. Same match you get on the show with Jake something going over. And then we cut to a backstage segment of the system leaving the building. And the announcers say that the system requested a camera crew follow them so they can show the world how the system operates before we go to our
Here to
first
show the
commercial
world
break.
like Dolph Ziggler?
Here to show the world. And then we come back from our first commercial break with a pre-tape of the system arriving at the restaurant. The maitre d' tells the system that there are no tables available. Edwards, Myers, and Alicia basically become Karens towards the maitre d'. Moose kind of steps in and says, hey, let me show you guys how this is done. Bribes the maitre d', who says, I got a table for you guys, follow me. So we're kind of doing a thing where Moose is kind of like being a mentor to Myers and Edwards.
Okay, all right. They're new to this having money thing. Clearly, by the way Eddie dresses.
And then we have a recap of the Death Dolls returning at Hard to Kill and winning the Knockouts tag team titles. And then we have, or I should say, Decay. And then we have an in-ring with Decay music and entrance. And they do a character promo about how they got bored in the demon realm and decided to take their hosts back. And then we get interruption from Crazy Steve. He reminds them that Decay abandoning him is why he went insane, and he's found new friends who like to inflict pain as much as him. MK Ultra hit the ring from the crowd and lay out Decay with chains. And then Crazy Steve and MK Ultra pose over Decay. Then we go to the backstage and have that Will Ospreay promo we saw on the show before we go to our second commercial break. And then we come back with the Ash by Elegance vignette that we saw on the show. And then we see the same pre-tape with Shaw and Gail Kim that we saw on the show, followed by the same vignette with Joe Hendry that we saw on the show. And then it's match 2, Zaya Brookside versus Tasha Steelz. Tasha music and entrance, Zaya music and entrance. We get the same match we saw on the show with Zaya going over, but then Steelz attacks Zaya after the match. And Tasha says she's taking everyone out until it's just the champ left.
If I'm an executive producer on this, I would change the finish that Tasha goes the fuck over. And Zaya has some hard lessons to learn about being a rookie in a new company.
Yeah, we could do that too. We could still have Tasha go over and beat the shit out of her afterwards. That works too.
Yeah, kick her and hit her.
And then we go to another pre-tape of the system at the restaurant. Their food arrives. Myers' food is made incorrectly, and he yells at the waiter. Moose reprimands Myers, puts money in the waiter's pocket, and says it will be worth his and the cooks' while to move Myers' remake to the front of the line. Then we cut to our third commercial break, and then come back with match number 3, which is a number 1 contenders match for the TNA tag team titles. Grizzled Young Vets versus Young and Kazarian. Match goes the same way as it does on the show, except we have ABC on commentary for this show. Get our tag team champs on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And once that all ends with including the Kaz heel turn on Eric Young, we go back to another pre-tape of the system at the restaurant. They pay for their meal and leave. And as they walk to their car, they get jumped by the Motor City Machine Guns, who also have weapons. And then the Motor City Machine Guns jump into a car, and we see the driver of the car is Kushida. And again, if we look at like the timeline of the show, there is enough time for Kushida, since it's in Vegas, to basically drive the Motor City Machine Guns to the show after the opening match, or to the restaurant after the opening match. So that does work timeline-wise.
Okay.
And then the system get in their car and follow before we go to our fourth commercial break. And then we come back with the Nick Nemeth promo, goes the same way as it does on the show, with Macklin interrupting. And then we go backstage with Gia and Grace, same match that we see on the show, with Trinity showing up, and we get the Knockouts title rematch for next week. Match number 4, Jay Vidal versus PCO. Jay Vidal music and entrance. Same pre-match promo as he does on the show. PCO music and entrance. Same match that we get on the show. Then this is something new. We cut to a vignette of Dango, Bravo, and Prudius. They talk about what happened at Hard to Kill. They bring up how Santino keeps showing bias against him and that their goal is to get Santino removed from power.
Okay.
And then someone else new to get somebody else on the show to cut, out of that 30-minute match. You get a pre-tape of Tom Hannafan and Savannah Evans of a sit-down interview where Savannah starts going into her backstory and personal life. We cut backstage.
How did she become a cannibal?
And then we cut backstage to a pre-tape backstage of the Rascals. Wentz hypes up Trey after his loss earlier in the X Division Multi-Man. The Rascals run into the grizzled young vets and they begin to insult each other, which then eventually turns into a brawl. The System arrive at the building and they just lay out both teams. And we see him leave the shot as we go to our 5th and final commercial break.
So interesting. The System left work and then they came back to work instead of partying all night. Is that what happened to? Did they expect Kushida and the Machine Guns to drive straight back to the show, and that's why they're there?
That's actually correct. They're looking for basically Machine Guns and Kushida, but if they can't find them, well, they'll just take whoever they can get their hands on.
Okay. So Kushida and the Guns went to go party all night.
The System's assuming that they showed up here.
Right.
Or if they followed them there.
But if they didn't, are they partying all night? Are they bribing waiters and going to the casinos?
No, that's why I like doing this, because like you point out those loopholes. Like, okay, where did they actually go?
Yeah, where'd they go? I want to know. I mean, I could understand if a camera crew cannot follow them, but maybe next week we can get a cell phone video from them showing what they did or something like that. I don't know.
And then we come back with the New Japan hype video. Cut to the announce table where they run down the card for next week's show. And then we go to our main event, match number 5, Josh Alexander versus Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay music and entrance. Josh Alexander music and entrance. A much, much more condensed version of the match we saw on the show, but with the same finish, with Josh Alexander going over with a C4 spike. And then when D'Amore comes out to cut the same promo, he doesn't get too far into it before the System run out, lay out Alexander and Ospreay. Moose grabs the mic and says that they will not tolerate disrespect, and the takeover starts early, and the show goes off the air with the System standing tall.
I see. Well, I'm somewhat conflicted. On the one hand, more System means more Moose. On the other hand, it means more of the other guys in the System. So I'm always like, there's never going to be a time when my mind doesn't have a tug of war to not have to watch Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers. That's always going to be in my mind. If only somehow it could just be a Moose and Alicia. But I understand. We'll just go with this. I don't even really care about Alicia that much, but just yeah. So yeah, I like more System. I'll take more System. If that's how I get more Moose, I'll take more System. But I really think that one of the things that's been another wrestling cliche is they surround a guy that they think has all the star power with other people, and they are in the hopes that they will get the rub and he will help them be over. And it just rarely ever happens that way. It's it's just sort of like there's few instances where guys are able to sort of branch out into other things. You could argue that happened for Jey Uso. You could also argue that it didn't, and they're just going with Jey Uso. You know, but
it could have worked out for Jey Uso, but the booking and the fact that they saddled him with that main event tagline or moniker, that kind of anchored and sank him.
yes. And this here, it's like you want to get excited about a new Moose era. And it's like, oh, by the way, it's Moose, but we're hanging all this stuff around his neck. You know? It makes it makes Moose, even as a leader, it's Moose is an afterthought. And all they could do was be in this one restaurant gimmick here on this show. And I'm just concerned. I'm not ready to, hit the panic button yet, but I'm concerned that we're just seeing another mediocre title run incoming. You're saying Moose couldn't do it without these guys, even though he did it without these guys. Like, they really weren't there. So, I don't know. That's my concern. But I'm talking about the real issues. Not so much your punch up, but just like, even you trying to add more into the show and get more screen time for the group, like, that's fine and everything. But my issue is the group. My issue is that they just don't think Moose has enough on his own, or they think he's going to bring up these guys that don't have enough on their own. Don't know which.
But yeah, that is it for this weekend. And from here on out, it will actually be the current TNA Impact that we'll be reviewing.
All right.
Yeah, we'll start doing it at the end of the show.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of this show now, and we'd better get out of here before one of us or both of us get lost again. So, Brandon, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me, as always, on Twitter, or as the kids call it this day, the X at Transarchistia. Once I get my whole computer and other monetary situation settled, I'll be back on Twitch at twitch.tv/MintsTia, the Transarchist. I tried to do some gaming streams on this laptop. I don't think this laptop's got no, there's no way it can handle it. No way at all.
No juice?
No, not.
Don't trust the system?
I don't trust this system, not this specific system.
Okay.
And then also at Substack at HMG Brandon.
All right. Well, sure to check Brandon out there. Thanks for the great audience, Lab Rat and everyone. Apologies again for the technical difficulties that have cropped up throughout the show. Yeah, you can see more technical difficulties on everything else I'm doing at Opinion Haver everywhere on social media, including YouTube. If you haven't gone to my YouTube channel, I may try streaming there just to see how that works. So just type me in, you'll find out who's me. There's another supposed Opinion Haver there. They have no subscribers. They have 2 videos, and one of the videos isn't even visible. So don't worry about that. Just subscribe to me instead, and then maybe I'll do like a live stream test at some point. If not, that's fine too. But just putting that out there. But anywhere you look for me, it's at Opinion Haver. If you want, you can watch the Next Level Wrestling review. You can watch the Wreckage. You can watch Wrestling with Rip Rogers, and you can watch everything Stevie Richards is doing, including how Goldberg's spear even hurts himself more than his opponent. This is the latest video. I won't get into the details on all that. You ought to know by now where to find us. So just a reminder, just a friendly reminder to check out those things. Next Level, Wreckage, Wrestling with Rip Rogers, everything Stevie Richards. So definitely thank you guys. And for Brandon, I'm the Vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.